Gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe.
Hello, 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 Legendaires and Arrow Squad. This is The Flash coming at you. Also want to give a shout out to Central City Underground listeners, as well as fans of Supergirl and Gotham. Just want to give you a little heads up as to what's coming in this special bonus episode. I had mentioned it on Arrow Squad and Tomorrow's Legends that we did a live recording at the Calgary Comic and Entertainment Expo. I actually hosted a panel where we talked about all the DC TV shows. I had Cammie join me for the Arrow Squad portion, and Harley join me for the Legends of Tomorrow portion. But I did the Supergirl, Gotham, and Flash all on my own, so just wanted to let you guys know that with this being a live panel in front of fans and being in a kind of an auditorium room, the audio quality is a little bit different than what you're used to. There's quite a bit of a kind of a hollow echo sound to it. I don't know why the recording sounded different. I thought I had piped everything through the same way I have it set up at home here, but we were picking up the feed from the speakers in the room for some reason, and so everything sounds a little bit different that way. And also the fans that got on the microphone, of course, they don't have any experience, so they weren't quite sure how to handle a microphone. Some of them were quite loud talking into it, so I had to play with a lot of the volumes and try to touch it up as much as I could. So I do apologize. It's not as great a quality as you're used to hearing on our feedback. You'll notice a lot of handling of the microphone as well, so there's a lot of bumping and knocks and pops and whatever different sounds the microphone makes when you handle it lots. Plus you do hear a lot of breathing because people that were asking questions forgot to lower the microphone from their mouth while they were waiting for a response and stuff, so you do hear a lot of breathing. I did my best to get rid of a lot of this stuff, but for almost a 2-hour show, there's just too much to go through and play with. So anyway, just wanted to warn you guys about that. And then the other thing was that we start with Arrow Squad, and fans that were there weren't quite sure what was going on yet. I don't think they knew what a live podcast was going to be, and so it took a little bit for them to kind of warm up to the idea and get into it. So me and Cammie did quite a bit of the talking in the beginning, but then once fans got the idea, as soon as the first guy grabbed the microphone, then everybody started opening up. And once we got through Arrow and went into Supergirl and Flash and Gotham and Legends, man, it started becoming a whole lot of fun. There was lots of laughter, lots of good questions, great responses, great discussion and theories and everything coming up. And it was a good time, and I just hope that you guys can get through it despite the different sound quality and all the extra noises going on, because it was a lot of fun. I would love you guys to enjoy the experience as if you were there live with us. And just remember also that this was actually recorded at the end of April, so there's still quite a few episodes left of the respective shows to go. So a lot of the discussion is kind of season recaps, but then it leads into what people think what's coming for the last few episodes before the big finale. So it's actually really interesting when you listen back and hear what fans were thinking, where their mindset was about characters and storylines before the finales came, and then to kind of hear, I guess, what their predictions were and how many of them were right or wrong or way off the mark. It's quite enjoyable. So I hope you guys can enjoy that and just pretend like you were there. One last thing I wanted to add in there. I do want to send a huge thank you to my two partners in crime, because they're both villainesses. Cammie and Harley, they came on board with me. We had them live there on Skype, up on the big screen. It was quite a fun little treat. I had a webcam pointed at the audience so they could see everybody, and everybody could see them up on the screen. I'm so thankful you guys were there with me, because I was quite nervous at the beginning of the show. I've never done anything like this before. I'm not bad with public speaking. I've gotten pretty good at it. I used to have a huge stage fright. But just to be putting our show on live in front of a live audience was a little nerve-wracking. So having you two there with me helped settle my mind and nerves a little bit. And I just appreciate you guys so much, because you kind of helped me control the crowd a little bit, I guess, and get everything flowing almost like our normal show does. But with it being live, it's a whole different beast, and there's quite a fun crowd, and some of them are getting a little bit ornery, and it was a lot of fun. And I just wanted you guys to know how much I appreciated the two of you, because when I did the 3 shows in the middle, Supergirl, Gotham, and Flash, it was just me, and I had to handle the crowd and handle, the kind of awkward questions. There's some controversial topics come up where, with Supergirl, we talk about all the same-sex relationships that are on there. A lot of the politics come up, and there's a few sensitive things that we talk about, and I'm just rather proud of how it went and how I was able to control the room. So yeah, I just wanted to say thanks, girls, because I couldn't have done it without you. So we'll get to it right now. Here's the live DCTV fan panel discussion from the Calgary Comic and Entertainment Expo 2017.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome. Thanks for showing up here. This is the first time I've done a live version of this podcast, as you can see on the screen. Those are my 2 podcasts that I run weekly. Does everybody know what a podcast is? Hands up if you know what a podcast is. Most people do? Okay, in short, it's like a radio show of the old days where your hosts just talk about many topics, and what I talk about is Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow. So, if you guys mostly know what it is, I don't have to go into it too much. What's going to happen today is we're going to go through all the DCTV shows. I'm going to mostly focus on Arrow and Legends, because those are the 2 that I do cover weekly basis. But we do, if there's fans in here that want to talk a bit of Supergirl, a bit of Flash, and a bit of Gotham, we can do that as well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to open it up and say a couple opening thoughts, and then I will open the floor to you guys, and you guys can raise your hand. I've got a lovely girl here that's going to help me. She's going to bring a wireless mic around to you guys so you can speak into the mic and have either a question or your thoughts or theories or ideas, whatever. This is basically what we do on the podcast. Me and my co-host, which both are in Atlanta, so I'm going to be calling them up on Skype here momentarily, so you can see them on the screen as well. But they're both down in Atlanta, and we basically discuss the shows for about 20 minutes, half an hour, and then we get some feedback submitted, and we usually talk or respond to all the feedback that fans submit. So we're going to do that. There is cameras recording, so I hope you guys don't mind. I'm going to hopefully turn in this to a live bonus podcast episode once the Expo is all over. So I'm going to dial up my host in Atlanta for Arrow, and we'll get started. Hello, Cammie.
Hi.
Can everybody hear okay out there? Can you see everybody?
I can. Look at all those pretty faces.
All right, Cammie, so we're just ready to introduce Arrow Squad to everybody.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Okay, I'm going to get our intro music to go, and then we'll do our thing normally, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right, guys, so this is basically what happens on the podcast. This is the first thing you're going to hear.
A beacon shining in the night, sometimes obscured by a shadow, reinforced by a wall of ice, always protected by a podcast overlord.
Their mission, to help the Green Arrow fight the darkness, corruption, and bring hope.
We are strong. We are ready. We are the Arrow Squad.
All right, welcome to Arrow Squad, everybody. How you doing, Cammie?
I'm doing great. How are you, Flash?
Doing awesome. So, my stage name is The Flash. My name is Martin,
Yes.
but people know me as Martin the Flash, and this is Cammie the Chameleon. Everybody in Arrow Squad, all our fans, everything, they have a superhero name or a villain name. So,
Yes.
let's dive into Arrow this season, guys. So far,
Yeah.
our feelings on Arrow is that Arrow is back on track. I believe, a lot of fans believe Season 1, Season 2 were probably the best of Arrow, and then Season 3 kind of dropped off a little bit, and I know a lot of fans were upset with how Season 4 went. I think introducing magic, and even though Damien Dark is a cool villain, it just didn't really fit in the Arrowverse. But we both believe that this season of Arrow has become a lot more personal. They brought it back to stories about the individual characters and not so much of a global story or, you know, the world's in danger or nuclear missiles blow up a city kind of thing. Is that right, Cameron?
Yeah. Yeah, it feels much more focused on Star City and the people from Star City that we love, and a little less focused on like every other superhero and guest star possible. And we love our core people, so it's cool to see them front and center.
Exactly. So one thing that we really like to talk about is Prometheus, Adrian Chase. Now I want to get kind of a vote from the crowd here. Does everybody think he is a worthy villain this season? Hands up if you think he's a good villain. Half and half? Okay, well let's find out what people think, because for me, we really haven't had a good villain since Slade Wilson in season 2. Does everybody agree he's the best that we've ever had? Yes. Yeah,
I see a lot of nods on that one.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a struggle with villains, but I think Adrian Chase, Prometheus, what I like about him is he's brought it back down to a very personal one-on-one story. He's got a vendetta against Oliver, which we're, the season is teaching us what that's all about. But there's been a few really, really serious episodes lately that I think Arrow has gone a lot deeper and darker than it has before. And it's really showing us, I think, almost Oliver coming around to a full circle. Like he's been on quite a journey. And I think, especially for the actor Stephen Amell, this is really, really pulling strong performances out of him this season because of the depths that he's sinking to. And, what else did you want to add to that, Cammie?
I think it's so interesting that they've chosen a villain for this season where his main strength has to do with getting into Oliver's head, because what we've seen Oliver set up as in terms of his strength as a hero since season 1 is his mental strength. Oliver's not a meta, he can't time travel, and he doesn't have a spaceship, it's nothing like that, but he has this ability, this tactical analysis that he gained through his time, in the Russian Bratva. He has all these skills that he's learned from the best of the best in terms of different hand-to-hand combat training. And having all of that come to a head with Prometheus, it feels like a really good sort of arch enemy where their skills are quite matched. He's not going up against somebody who's just another meta or a Time Lord, not to borrow from Doctor Who, but like he's going up against somebody matched for his skills. It's really interesting. I'm curious to hear what everybody else thinks.
Anyone out there want to got some thoughts about Prometheus? We'll get you guys involved because this is a fan panel discussion, so it's all about all of us talking. And who wants to take the first stab and give me some thoughts on Prometheus? Anybody? Hand up. Let's have some fun, guys. Let's make this kind of like an intimate, affair. We'll have some good talking. Nobody wants to add any thoughts about Prometheus, whether you like him, don't like him, like tell us why you like him or why you don't. Over there, Leah. She'll bring the mic to you, sir.
Check, 1, 2. Okay, so we're good. All right, my views on Prometheus thus far. I think they had two different things in mind with Prometheus. A lot of that's name recognition. They aim a lot towards the older fanboys. Prometheus, for those people who don't know about it, is actually a villain created for Justice League. The mentality behind it was to have someone who could stand toe-to-toe as kind of an anti-Batman. His ability was to have this helmet that records the battle strategies of anyone he comes across, and thus use it to beat the crap out of whoever happens to be handy. And Adrian Chase, for other people who don't quite get that reference, was the original secret identity for a character called the Vigilante. Ran 50 issues. It was a rather tragic story. Look it up in your back issue bin. It's one of those things. From my take on it is they needed a big bad. They pulled Prometheus out of a hat because he was this really badass Batman / Justice League villain, which they then turned around, dumbed down, and made into a version of Vigilante, including giving him the secret identity of Adrian Chase. Pick a lane, guys. If you guys are going to make him badass and make him this high-tech thing and give him the name of Prometheus, work within parameters. If you guys are going to turn around, stick a ski goggle on his head and call him Vigilante, run with that. Pick a lane. But
my guess is that you don't think they're the same person, Vigilante and Prometheus, because I was
of course
running early this season.
Well, that's how they got it set out now since Adrian Chase went all Silence of the Lambs on Ollie. in that whole jail cell thing. It's kind of hard to walk that back at this point.
Right.
Particularly if you only have 3 episodes left. You're not exactly going to pull somebody out of left field.
No, and this is what we deal with on our podcast weekly basis, is people trying to figure out who is Vigilante now, because he hasn't been with us for a couple episodes. So do you have any theories?
We thought for quite a while, because of the name connection that you pointed out, that Chase was just Vigilante and not Prometheus. So it was an interesting twist, I guess. Interesting, good or bad, depending on how you see it, that he wasn't who we expected in this, TV iteration of it.
Well, in order to build up enough, you would have to be somebody who's part of the main cast. There's no point bringing somebody out of left field and going, oh, by the way, Joe Smith was Vigilante. How shocking, right? Oh, by the way, who the hell were you again? So, I mean, maybe he's Vigilante, maybe he's just playing on Prometheus thing, but they go through this whole unmasking thing. And Vigilante himself, what we've seen of him, the few couple of snippets, seems to have done a ding-dong ditch, because we haven't really seen Vigilante himself since the big Prometheus reveal. So I'm kind of wondering if that kind of went the way of the doorbell.
Well, here's a theory that has come our way via some fan feedbacks. Some people think that Sergeant Pike, or Commander Pike, I'm not sure, the police officer, could possibly be Vigilante, because he got injured in the last confrontation, and we have not seen Vigilante since. Mm-hmm. You guys remember that outdoor battle scene?
Yeah.
When Pike was there to help them out against, I think it was against 3 female villains, Cupid and China White. That's when Pike got shot, and it's kind of since then we have not seen Vigilante show up yet. So that's kind of the running theory right now, that he could be.
And I think we got the tease that we may not find out who Vigilante is until season 6 as well. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was really
the problem. The problem with that being Pike is you run into that problem again of, who are you?
Right.
Because I didn't even know who Pike was until you mentioned China White and the otherwise. So you're building this mystery around a character we've seen exactly 5 seconds of screen time on.
Yeah.
No. You've seen more about a murderer in regards to Murder, She Wrote before the first commercial than you have seen with Pike the entire season thus far.
No, that's good. Like I said, that is one theory I don't disagree with you. I have a feeling it's got to be so impersonal, because the Vigilante also seems to know a lot about what's going on. And I do agree with you, like that. These DCTV shows, they take the mythos of the comic books and they rework them a little bit for what's going to work in TV. I know there's a lot of storylines and a lot of character changes that sometimes fans we get upset with, but you also have to realize that if they were to follow the comic books exactly, then it would be very predictable for all of us. It might not be as entertaining as much as we want to see. Oh, I'd love to see this whole storyline play out in live action, but you already know what's going to happen. So the producers have decided to tweak things and change it a little bit just to keep us fans guessing and make it a little bit more entertaining that way.
My response back to that then is, why use Prometheus at all? It's just name recognition at that point.
Yeah, I guess for fans that really know the storyline and the character in the comic books, that's true.
It's a cool name that they pulled out of a Justice League comic at that point.
I think there is the element that you're right, it is just name dropping, but in a sense, a lot of the sort of cool comic book Easter eggs for those who've read the comics are sort of just name dropping. We've seen, I believe, the reporter who is a recurring character on Arrow, Bethany Snow, I think is her name.
Yes.
It's a tiny little comic Easter egg that you'll completely miss if you've never read them. But it's a nice nod to the fact that they're acknowledging that a lot of us, like you, have read the comics and may know a lot of these sort of lesser known characters or lesser known villains that are inspiring this version. Maybe not a carbon copy in this version, as you pointed out. Prometheus is definitely not a carbon copy of the villain against Justice League, but perhaps inspired by him in a way, or sort of paying homage, which kind of lead to, Martin, a second point that you had, which was talking about some of the new characters that we've had this season, some of them sort of being almost brand newish, and some of them are new comic book iterations. I'm really curious to hear what you guys thought of some of the new characters like Wild Dog, Mr. Terrific, and Dinah Drake.
Yes, let's move on to those guys, because there's been a lot of fan debate as well with the new characters, because we've kind of lost Rory, or Ragman as they call them, and what was the girl's name, Cammie? That we haven't seen.
I can continue this
Evelyn,
conversation,
right?
but I'm pretty sure we should give somebody else a shot.
Right. So me personally, as a fan, Wild Dog took me a long time. Like, he's just now starting to grow on me. I didn't like his attitude in the beginning. He just seemed like a spoiled teenager, and the way he was never listening to orders and always screwing up the sequences. But he's growing on me now. I think the changes that he's gone through with working in the office with Lance, I think those scenes are fantastic. Those two seem to really have good chemistry, and it's fun to watch. And I think they've matured Wild Dog down a little bit, and he's a lot more fun to watch now. Mr. Terrific is another fan favorite. I think we all loved Curtis when he first came onto the show. Yeah, everybody loved Curtis. He was kind of basically a replacement for Felicity when he came in, and we fell in love with him. And then when the season first started, there was a really change. Like, he did not seem like the same Curtis. There was something different about him. But now that the season has moved forward a little bit, and we see him turning into the Mr. Terrific persona with his T-spheres and stuff, now it's getting fun.
Yeah.
And then my personal favorite, though, right now is, and I might get some backlash on this, but the new Canary, Dinah Drake, I believe she is the best one we've had. You got you two back there? Yeah. Yes. Woo, Dinah Drake. I loved Cassidy, and I love Sarah. I love Sarah even more on Legends now, but I found that they just didn't play up the Black Canary the way I enjoy Black Canary, especially from the Justice League cartoon and stuff. I felt they didn't fit the, whereas Cassidy wasn't physically the part as well. Like, Sarah fit it well, but I wasn't too fond of her acting back then. I just find that Dinah Drake right now is fitting she's hitting every cylinder. Her acting performance, her physicality, the look, right down to her wardrobe and everything. And she just immediately seemed like she had chemistry with the whole team. Cammie?
Yeah, I thought it was so interesting at the beginning of the season when we had all these new characters who, to a large extent, were brand new for us all at once. And like you, that took a long time for me to adjust to. And quite frankly, I think I'm still adjusting to that a little bit, because we had sort of a whole new team. And we're in season 5, coming up towards the end of Oliver's, 5-year journey. And all of a sudden there were these new players, but it was kind of fun to see which ones sort of meshed well with the team and which ones, fell by the wayside. And like you, Wild Dog kind of didn't mesh for me at first with the team, and now it feels like they're really taking a lot of that dynamic into consideration and sort of making him, as you say, come across a little bit older, pairing him with Quentin in, the whole mayor's office thing, and that dynamic works a little better. With Evelyn and Rory falling to the wayside, that's kind of like, it was bound to happen because we kind of had to narrow down this group a little bit. And then we're also left with Curtis, who had been introduced to us prior to this season, but was almost sort of reintroduced to us this season in a new way. And now he has his new T-spheres and all of that. And I love getting to see new tech incorporated onto the show. So that was really fun.
Cammie loves her tech, yes.
Yeah. One of the things that I know we've done on the podcast a few times is we sort of ranked the new characters, like maybe picked out most favorite or least favorite. Does anybody out there want to rank any of the newbies or point out their favorite of the new set?
Okay, hands up who likes Wild Dog. Are they enjoying him now?
Okay, I see 3.
Okay. Didn't like him in the beginning, but like him now. Do we miss Rory, Ragman? Yeah, see, I think he was the favorite to begin with. How about Evelyn? One for Evelyn? Okay. I want to ask you, sir, when Evelyn first showed up on the scene, what did you think she was going to become? Because I first thought she could be, sidekick, but then she showed up thinking that might be the new Black Canary, people thought, and then just out of nowhere, she became,
Artemis. Being a huge Green Arrow fan, I'd always thought Artemis on my mind, only because she was younger. She was trained she trained with her bow and arrow and stuff like that. So right away, I kind of knew like there wasn't a Black Canary for her. It was Artemis. And being a fan of like Teen Titans, Young Justice, and stuff like that, the show, like Artemis is huge in that. So right away, I kind of thought, oh, it'd be cool if she was Artemis. Her, where her story took her, I was a little upset. I was like, I feel it was kind of a waste, and only a waste because like I enjoy the character. I wanted her to kind of be around, but yeah, what's done is done.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel the same. Once she became Artemis, I loved her in Young Justice, so I was really hoping they were going to follow that. It almost felt like they were ripping through her Young Justice story, because wasn't in the cartoon she kind of betrayed the team for a little while, where we thought she was going to be a bad guy?
Well, you do, like you see like her, kind of like her story, like her relationship with her sister and stuff like that, so her ties like with the Arrow, like with Green Arrow, with Roy Harper, like through the comics or even through the show, right? Like you see like all those connections. So for the show, I was like, here we go. Like, let's kind of like get into that a bit. That would be awesome. But like I said, what's done is done. But
well, I don't know what you think, Cammie. I think it's funny if actors, the writers are just not finding the right stories for them, or the chemistry isn't there, and then that's when they decide to write them out.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing, and it kind of ties back to one of the things we were discussing at the beginning of this, which has to do with the fact that TV is a different medium than the comics, and so there are these additional factors. And with the comics, there's no actress behind it. It's whoever the artists and writers want to put in, and wherever they want to take that story. But with TV, you have to take into account, which actor is available and whether their chemistry meshes with the rest of the cast, and that can really get somebody to stick around for a long time, or it can cut some characters short, unfortunately. I, like you, was pretty excited about the potential for Evelyn at the beginning, and I was kind of sad to see a lot of that potential go to the wayside. But again, this was a season where we had so many new characters. I'm sure it was really hard for the writers to, try to insert full stories for each characters, and some, unfortunately were cut short.
So let me ask you guys, who misses Roy Harper?
Oh, I see a lot of hands.
Yes, yeah. There has been rumors coming and going that he's supposed to return to the show for a few episodes, and then he got pulled back again. But I'm hoping that's still ringing true, that he'll come back. But let's move on to Felicity. Do we have Felicity fans here? Yes. Okay, I want to hear some of your guys' reactions. How do you guys feel about her story so far? Because right now it's a very dark storyline for her, dealing with Helix, and we saw her going down some paths we have not seen her go down, where she's making some crazy decisions. And it's not quite the Felicity we fell in love with when she was the goofy, happy, stick her foot in her mouth and then the other foot in the mouth with the funny things that she'd say to Oliver. So it's a different storyline, but I guess every character on this show has gone through a story arc. Before they become true heroes, they have to dive to the depths of themselves and learn a few things about themselves. And I think that's kind of the path that we're on with Felicity as she's trying to figure things out. Something to add to that, Cammie, and then I'll throw it to the audience.
Yeah, I think it's interesting they've commented that they wanted Felicity to kind of have a chance to go through her own island, and I think that that's one of the things that this sort of interaction with Helix is. And yeah, it feels so dark because it's so different from what we've seen Felicity go through, although we of course know other people on the team have gone through much darker and made much more morally questionable decisions. So this isn't really startling in that way. It's kind of startling to see Felicity do it. But I think they did a good job in previous seasons sort of building up the fact that, she's not like, a complete shining light, moral compass pacifist. She's encouraged Oliver to kill Ra's al Ghul in the past, and she's made tough decisions before. So it's been set up to an extent that we know she has this ability, but it is still so striking to see such a dark storyline for her and to see her have to make these decisions that, of course, Oliver and Diggle have had to do this before, but this is Felicity. So it's a struggle to watch, but it's kind of exciting to watch.
definitely. All right, sir, what do you have to say?
I guess my viewpoint is I'll champion Felicity's cause till the cows come home. I really will. She is the everyman character. She was basically just tossed into this when her boss kept telling her stuff going, look into this for me. And she just ends up getting pulled into this world. She finds out her father is the calculator. She ends up getting paralyzed from the legs down for God only knows how long. She's been through 7 kinds of hell, not to mention handling someone who's taken moping to an Olympic sport. It's only a matter of time before Felicity is going to snap. I'm actually really surprised it hasn't happened long before now, where she actually looks at Oliver's methods, Diggle's methods, and goes, you know, they may just very well have a point. I've been the good guy. I've been the moral bloody compass through this entire group. I've kept this all together, and I'm tired of it. I've had all this shit happen. Maybe it's time I kick over a few rocks of my own, and I say, you go.
I love that comment. That's such a good comment.
People have whined and whined and whined about the Felicity thing for years. Why is she such a romantic foil? Oh, she is a romantic foil for Oliver. This is becoming way too much like One Tree Hill. Now you guys have a dark Felicity, and now you guys have to deal with it. This is the character development everybody had wanted, so it's here now.
So stop complaining.
Precisely.
I think it's kind of 50-50 street. I think there's been a lot of fans, like you said, that have been wanting this. And it's just, like Cammie said, it's uncomfortable for us to view because of the Felicity that we know. The one point you brought up about her being paralyzed, there was a lot of fans that were really, really excited about that, to see her have to go through that struggle. I know on our feedback we have quite a few fans that were in a similar situation, that are confined to a wheelchair or struggle with other things. So they really, really connected to that storyline, and then they were disappointed how fast they fixed that. I think it would have probably been a little nicer if they stretched that story out a little bit longer and have her have to deal with it more, because it was a little bit miraculous how quick that computer chip in her spine fixed the situation.
Yeah, I think they were trying to avoid going too much of a Barbara Gordon storyline with her for too long. So that may have been why that was cut short, in addition to, as we've said before, it's TV, and unfortunately we don't have as much time as we might have had in like unending issues of the comics. But yeah, that was a cool storyline for her. I've definitely seen teasers that there will be allusions to it in the next episode as well. So I'm kind of excited to see that sort of readdress itself.
Anybody else out there talk about Felicity? Talk about her storyline with Helix, or do we want her to get back with Oliver? Let's see hands for that. No with Oliver? I see everybody shaking their heads.
Now that we got Dinah, we don't need it.
Yeah. Well, that's another one. Should Dinah and Oliver get together, or have the original Green Arrow, Black Canary romance that a lot of us are waiting for?
I'll make a comment.
Oh, you got it.
Okay, hi. I'm actually kind of a bit shy about this because the truth is that I don't really watch Arrow. I've seen like all the other DC shows, and I haven't watched anything since December, so I'm really behind.
Okay,
but no, it's fine. Like, spoil away, because I try to keep up at least with some Arrow spoilers, like about Laurel dying, just because it was so important for Sarah Lance and what was going on with her in Legends of Tomorrow. So I am familiar with some spoilers, but I just wanted to say that I did enjoy Felicity, like in crossover episodes when she was on The Flash and everything. So that's kind of only where I know her from. But I did kind of notice a pattern with all of the DC TV shows. It seems that when, at least from the beginning, when they've had someone who is designated as the official love interest of maybe your main protagonist within each of the series, when they tried to give these characters independence, like they try to give them storylines separate from the love interest, like in the case of, I guess, Jimmy Olsen in Supergirl, or even Iris West in The Flash, it seems to be met with a lot of almost fan backlash. Like, first you have fans saying, well, we want them to have separate storylines to grow as characters, but then I think that the writers always have an issue of trying to make them, I guess, unique, like completely unique from their love interest, or they have issues trying to flesh them out, and it seems that it's always unfavorable with the fans. I don't know if you guys have opinions about that, if you feel that those storylines are usually weak, like with Guardian, or in this case with Felicity.
Well, if you're sticking around, go ahead, Cammie. Go ahead, Cammie.
I was just going to say, it almost feels like it's impossible for us to see a character be in a relationship and also have independence at the same time. It's almost, there's always this backlash when it comes to the relationships, that they're like fraught with drama and it makes the show feel like a soap opera, when in reality the parts that feel like a soap opera are when they're tragically torn apart and there's all these tears and crying and heavy sighing, and that's the part we don't like. If we see a couple being, just sort of kick ass together and taking down villains and there's no drama, that's great. Like, sign us up. It's sort of it's the pulling apart that bothers us, and the pulling apart becomes a storyline to where they don't have independence. Independence can happen when you just sort of have stability in the relationship, and it's a non-factor. You don't really address it other than the fact that at the end of the episode they happen to be going home to the same apartment, and that's kind of nice. And then you can see like individual struggles with individual villains and individual interests, and that's the fun part, really. I mean, I get that it's a teen network, and so they kind of want the who's going to ask me to prom factor, but those of us who are adults watching it maybe kind of don't engage with that as much.
Yeah, I think we've heard a lot of complaints too that a lot of the female characters on these DC TV shows, that's mostly the stories they get is, oh, I'm just the girlfriend on the side and pining over the boy, the main character, and that it's not a very agreeable complaint, because we do want to see. I mean, you look at, like you mentioned on Flash Iris West, she's very much like Lois Lane. She's a very strong reporter. We haven't seen her develop that yet, and I think with Felicity, it's tough because she's kind of a created character for this show. So we loved her in the beginning, and we saw the way she flirted with Oliver, and I think that's where, the Felicity romance began there, because we all saw the chemistry. And I remember reading that the show producers basically folded to fan feedback that they want them to get together. I don't think they had planned that originally. It makes me wonder what the original storyline was going to be for Felicity. It's just that she was so strong right off the bat. So from her opening scene, first time we ever saw her, she was so strong, and they had to bring her up because she was supposed to. I think she was only contracted for 3 episodes back then, and her performance was so strong and fans loved her so much that she became a regular character, and then they had to start writing her storyline out. But yeah, I think I agree with you that it has been weak storylines for a lot of these characters, and just trying to stretch out, trying to flesh out a storyline for them, I think, is where fans want to see something specific, and when the writers give us something different, people get upset because it's not what you're expecting. And I think we have to. That's where feedback comes in. But I think we have to give them a chance to find their way and flesh it out and stuff. Right?
Yeah, I think it's been really fun, actually, to see the intersection of the writers finding their way and the cast kind of finding their way. One of the points that you've made recently on the show, and I've also seen a lot in the feedback that we get from listeners, is how impressive the cast has been recently with the material that they're given. We've seen some really strong performances from a lot of the cast members on this show. I think somebody here today just commented earlier about Stephen Amell's performance. And then, as you said, with Felicity, Emily Bett Ricard's performance from the very beginning, it was so strong that she became strongly integrated in the show. And then we also have, we talked about Diggle and how great his performance has been this season with both the action scenes and also as sort of a leader force in the team as well. So I'm kind of curious to hear from you guys as well. What are some of the strongest moments or strongest performances that you've noticed from this season? What's sort of been keeping you watching or maybe kept you watching before?
Throw it out. Something we got to go out there. Did we answer your point? Good. Okay, cool. Yeah, we kind of got away from us there. I just want to make sure there's nothing I want to clarify. Okay.
Hi. I like Dolph Lundgren this year. I liked him as Drago and all that, Universal Soldier. I think he's a good foil for Oliver. So what did you think about him?
You are right on my page, sir. Dolph Lundgren, I'm a fan of the 80s action heroes, and Dolph Lundgren's right out there with Stallone and Arnold and everything. So as soon as I found out that he was going to be on the show and be the big, I thought he was going to be the big bad for the season, but they haven't brought him in and used him enough. But still, those first couple scenes that we saw him in, and that first fight with him and Oliver in that hallway there, oh my God, could he still lay down the beats? Dolph Lundgren's such an imposing figure, and he made Stephen Amell look tiny. And Dolph's, I think he's in his 50s or 60s now, And he's still got the physicality. He can still move and look really, really tough on screen. So, I was actually really impressed with his performance. Like, he really brought it. I normally don't see that strong of an acting performance out of him, but he really played it up, and I was very happy, and I was hoping we're going to see so much more of him. So if he's coming back, have you heard, Cammie? I don't know if he's coming back for more.
I think, and I don't know if it's been confirmed, but I've heard rumors of him returning possibly even in season 6.
There you go.
So we'll see.
Yeah, no, I really, really love Dolph Lundgren for sure. Anybody else out there? Any other characters you want to talk about, bring up? What would you, Cammie? What can we bring up?
I would say I've loved, in particular, and I kind of already mentioned it, the performances of the core trio, because we are coming up to the end of the 5-year arc, and we know that Arrow has been renewed through season 6, but it's obviously going to change because it won't be about that 5-year journey of Oliver returning to the island in the flashbacks and Oliver returning to Star City in present day, and what sort of makes him a hero and what kind of hero he is. It's going to change a little bit in tone, and they've talked about the fact that the flashbacks will be a little bit different going forward. So coming up to the end of this arc, being able to see our core trio come up to the end of their arcs and come to the end of their islands, there's just been such good performances from Amel, Ramsey, and McPart. So I've really been enjoying that trio on screen. They really put their heart into it this season, I feel.
Well, yeah, that was a lot of the talk, was bringing it back to our core trio, because we miss Diggle. Yeah. Diggle fans, do we all love Diggle?
Yeah.
Do you guys know that he also plays the mayor on Blue Bloods? He's the mayor of New York City. So I think because we haven't seen him this season much on Blue Bloods, but because of his double duty, I think that took him away a little from Arrow. We all love some Diggle. We term it Diggleisms.
Yeah.
He has got some fantastic advice. Every time there's scenes with him and Oliver, I think those are some of our favorite sequences, because Diggle just lays down the wisdom, and it makes me wish I had a buddy like that. Just who wouldn't want Diggle as your best friend and your bodyguard at the same time? But yeah, it's great to see the three of them back. We haven't had a lot of scenes with Oliver, Diggle, and Felicity yet, but we were missing that early. Well, especially a lot last season, but early this season when they were really focusing on the newbies and stuff. So it's really, I think we all felt like it was coming home again once those three got back together and Diggle was no longer running from the law and things like that. So yeah, really, really good. The last thing I want to touch on for Arrow just quickly is that I find the performances of our actors have really stepped it up this season. I don't know if you guys agree, but Stephen Amell was always a little bit stiff through most of the show, but this season he seems to be really digging and finding a way to perform and really show us some emotion. And it's making me excited. And like with the stories, with where they're going, it seems like the writers have found their way again, and I'm pretty excited for season 6. And well, actually, to see how this season finishes first. Anybody want to have a final say on Arrow? Anything about the characters, storylines, whatever? We'll move on or kind of keep track of the time a little bit here. Cammie, any final thoughts?
I think that covered everything. I'm so excited to see how they end this season. I think last episode, or the episode this week, I won't spoil anything, but I thought it was so great, and the ending was definitely a good Arrow-style cliffhanger. So I'm on the edge of my metaphorical seat.
Has everybody watched the episode this week? No, okay, so we won't say too much about it then.
Okay.
Yeah, don't want to spoil anything. Yeah, it was a pretty decent episode. For the one coming back after such a long hiatus, they kind of take off right from where the last one left off, so it's pretty good. Pretty good episode. All right, if there's no last points about Arrow, we're going to move on, and Cammie, I'm going to let you go for now.
Bye, guys.
Everybody say bye to Cammie. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
I will talk to you soon, Cammie.
Talk to you later.
Okay. I'm actually burning data because there's no Wi-Fi in this room, so I'm using my cell phone as a hotspot to get Wi-Fi off the thing. So if she's all the way in Atlanta, that's burning data. My next co-host, I won't bring her on until Legends of Tomorrow until we get to that. So do we have Supergirl fans in the audience here? Oh, we do. Okay. Awesome. Let's talk a little bit Supergirl. I got a couple notes written down here. What is everybody's general feeling of this season 2? I find it's kind of lost its way a little bit. Season 1 to me was very strong and made Supergirl right up there. It was probably in the top 3, I would say, out of all the DCTV shows. I found when it moved, I don't know if it was the move to CW that did that, and they have new writers or what's going on, but I found that a lot of the characters' relationships changed. Because in season 1 we had Wynn. Wynn's my favorite character. And we had Wynn, who was pretty much best friends with Kara, and James was in there. I wasn't too fond of the James-Kara romance. I'm not too fond of what they're doing with James's character. But I just found that that's the kind of things that we lost in season 2. Their friendships are no longer the focal point of the show, and they really also incorporated a lot of romance this season. Now I know it's a CW show and I know it's Supergirl, but there wasn't this much Grey's Anatomy type romance going on. It seems like every character in the show is part of a couple or part of a relationship somehow, and it's almost like they were focusing more on that than the superhero adventure type stuff. Also, the sister dynamic is not as strong, because I think that was some of the best parts of season 1 was Alex and Kara, and there was such a strong sister relationship and sister bond with them, and I found that once Alex decided to date Officer Maggie there, we really lost that sister connection. And we also lost a lot of Alex's, she kicked butt. When she had that exosuit, or she was out in the field and going on her missions and stuff, I thought she was such a force to reckon with, and we've kind of lost that as well. So these are some of the things that I'm feeling a little bit anxious about season 2. I want to hear from you guys. What are you guys liking or disliking right now? Let's just throw it out to you guys. Right over there. Straight down the left side there.
Hello.
Hi.
Is it working? Okay.
I just have to talk close to that one, I think.
I think so. Okay. I think it's more that CW is trying to cover way too much stuff in this season, and they're trying to get a feel for everything they can possibly do. So they're not really focusing on one certain aspect as much as they should be. I do agree that Supergirl and Alex, their sister relationship is a little left out. But I think with the sneak peek for the next episode coming up, it looks like they're going to go into that a little bit more, so I'm very excited for that. But I'm kind of really sad about how they gone so far into the random, like Mon-El's parents. I thought that was really random for this season. Yeah, basically. I guess they're aliens, so that makes sense, but still, it's very odd. But I still love the show. I'm very excited for the next episodes that will be coming out.
Okay, well, while you're there, let me ask you, do you like Mon-El?
I really love Mon-El. I don't know if it's just because he's really handsome, or if he's like, a Daxamite, and Kryptonians and Daxamites aren't supposed to get together, or if it's just because he's had so much character development this season. Like, wow. Yeah. He went from like spoiled rich kid to super caring guy, but still he hasn't quite gotten the caring guy down pat yet.
No. Yeah, the guy playing him, Chris Wood, I love the character. He's playing him to a T. He's goofy, he's funny, he's lovable, and yeah, he's a good-looking guy. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the feeling you're having is that they're showing him too much. They're focusing so much of Supergirl's story based around his character and his storyline. And it's okay for a few episodes here and there, but I think constantly is where we're losing a lot. We're missing out on getting to see some of the other stories develop. And with his parents, I thought it was great to bring Terry Hatcher in. Supergirl is if there's one thing they're doing great is bringing in all these old actors that have been part of the Superman universe from whether it was from Lois and Clark or from Smallville or from the movies. I think one of the greatest scenes was when they had all 3 people that played Supergirl on screen at the same time. Because you had I can't remember the actress's name who played the movies. Everyone remember? Helen Slater, thank you. And then the girl from Smallville. Totally blanking.
Laura Vandervoot.
Vandervoot, thank you. Yeah, so that was a fantastic scene when they had all 3 of them up there. But bringing it back to Mon-El, I think he's a fun character. I would like to see them develop him, because I don't know a lot about him from the comic books, but I know he really comes into his own as a superhero. So I'd really like to see them taking that, like, get away from the romance a little bit, and let's see him training again, because those are fun scenes, and get him, let's get Wink and make him a cool outfit.
Yes.
I said something about Terry Hatcher and then having Kevin Sorbo on there. That did kind of come out of nowhere. But they've really incorporated a lot of aliens on the show, which I wasn't expecting them to do. I mean, having that whole bar, that nameless bar.
Yeah, can we get the name of that bar, please? That would be nice.
There's some fans that are throwing some names out there, and there's some funny ones out there. But yeah, I mean, having that bar with all aliens, that just kind of surprised me that all of a sudden there's all these aliens on Earth, and everybody seems to be okay with it.
Well, they're hiding still, aren't they? But not. They're.
How can they hide some of them?
Yes.
But that's a good point. Some of them should not. I don't think they can hide.
Well, where did they all come from? Like, did they teleport here? Did they get, warped here? Did their spaceship land here? Like, obviously, somehow that would have been found out if they've got spaceships coming in or what. So I'm wondering if Linda Carter's character playing the president, because we know she's also an alien, so does she have something to do with that behind the scenes where she's allowing aliens to come and go as they please? What's happening there? I don't know. And I thought it was pretty cool having Linda Carter guest star on the show.
Yes.
Yeah. It'd be fun to see more of her, because I'd like to see her get a little villainous. We all love her as Wonder Woman, but yeah, definitely. How about, let's bring up Lena Luthor. We liking her? Kinda, yeah. When she first appeared on the show, I wondered if they were going to follow the Smallville Luthor storyline. She's basically going to be the female version of Lex, was what I was wondering. But I think because we saw her she was a friend with Kara to begin with, and they're kind of toying with that friendship. And now we don't know, like, she was against her mom, she was with her mom. We don't really know if she's going to be a good guy or a bad guy yet. So it's kind of, but I love the interaction. She's got great chemistry with Melissa. So what's our feelings out there? Let's throw the microphone out. Who wants to talk a little bit about Lena? We're here. Sure.
I just want to say I'm really excited to see Katie McGrath on the show, because she was on Merlin and she was awesome. I miss her on Merlin. So, I just like watching her particular as an actress, and trying to pick out when her English accent peeks through. It's like bingo whenever we watch Supergirl. But no, I like that because the sister relationship is kind of falling by the wayside. So I think Lena Luthor is they're introducing that more as like a sisterly type relationship. And I'd like to see whether or not she is, I don't think she's evil, but you never know because she wavers. But in Merlin, she totally was. So I'm just waiting for her to become evil again, because she just plays the villainess so well.
So what's your theory then? What do you think? Which way she's going to go?
I don't know. I'm just excited to see, because I just love her as an actress, right? So anytime I get to watch her on TV, it's good for me.
Right. Yeah, her performing is phenomenal. Definitely. Anybody else about Lena or one of the other characters? What do people? There, sure. Can be about anything too. If you guys come up with an idea or a thought or a theory, just throw up your arm.
My first thought was she's pretty much the Smallville version of Tess Mercer. That's kind of what I went through, because she's the adopted Luthor, right? So that's kind of where I leapt to. They're drawing from that a little bit.
And do you think she's following that path still?
I think they'll do a similar thing. I think she'll teeter the line both ways throughout however long she's on the show, and then eventually pick her side. So.
Well, Tess ended up being kind of a good guy at the end, didn't she?
Yeah, but it took her a while to get there.
That's true. Yeah, it took her a while. I remember loving the Tess character back then. Yeah, no, that's a good theory. That maybe, I mean, Smallville ran for 10 years, so it would be totally smart of them to kind of follow a lot of the same storylines. Hopefully, not exactly rewrite them with a new flair, but I think they could pull on that. Yeah, that was definitely exciting. How do people feel about Alex dating Maggie? It's kind of a controversial topic. I mean, this is one of the things with Supergirl that I think people are complaining about is that Supergirl, out of all the DC TV shows, is the one that's taking on all the political agendas, I guess people were saying. It's trying to hit up, make sure it hits up every major storyline out there that's popular right now. How do people feel about that?
So I'm really happy that they're doing, this kind of stuff on TV. I don't really care if it's a political agenda or not. I just think that it needs to be more mainstream across all media platforms. Just because it's a thing. It's also legal, which I'm very happy for people. If people love each other, they should be allowed to get married, all that fun stuff. And I like how it's there, but not obnoxiously in your face at the same time. If they made it obnoxiously in your face, I'd be upset with them, but they haven't so far.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think they are writing these type of storylines just with the right amount of care and concern applied to it. Like, they're really, like you said, they're not throwing it in our face. It's very believable. Definitely. I think we need to see more of that. I mean, every show is kind of tackling it in their own way. But let me take the other side of that, though. With Alex and Maggie, do you feel it's kind of taken over Alex's character? Like I said earlier, like, we're not seeing Alex as much being the leader in the field and the tough agent that we first saw her as. Do people feel that we're kind of weird? So we'd like to see a little more of that. Yeah. Sir, you got something there?
I always have something. That's why I end up with this thing more often than not. First off, I don't really give a shit if it's a political agenda or not. People are going to whine regardless, no matter what you do. I've sat and I've watched people complain about the Captain America Hydra thing. I've sat and, because anything that's outside the statistical norm, people are going to whine about. Call it political agendizing if you feel like it, but at that point, if you're using buzzwords like that, you need to go have a look, talk in the mirror. Going from that, however, J.M. Straczynski said an absolutely wonderful thing when they were talking about whether or not there were any gay characters on Babylon 5. His response back was, exactly 30% of the cast is gay or has some bisexual aspect. And the response back to that was, well, they don't make much of it. And Straczynski's response back to that exactly was, and isn't that the point? So that's kind of the whole thing about what you were saying previously about them not making a big issue of it. And isn't that the point?
Yeah, it should just be accepted and okay, and it's just part of life.
It's nobody's bloody business.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as it taking away from Maggie's character, it's nice to see, or Alex's character. It's nice to see Alex have a little bit of a soft side. We've seen.
It's so unlucky in love, all the first season, right?
We've seen her kick down enough doors. We know she's badass. It's nice to see her take a step and not leave all the emo stuff to Kara. But yeah, I'd like to see her kick down a few more, and I'm pretty sure we'll actually see that as time goes on.
I think so. Bring back the exosuit too, because I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, hugely.
Cool. Anybody else? Something about Supergirl? One more here in the front, and we'll get to Flash after this. Gotta keep track of the time here.
Okay. I guess going back to the same topic of Alex's coming out story and everything, I thought it was beautifully done. Very important to do. Yes. And I know some of the comments about, it's taking away from her kick-ass side. They'll get back to that. They'll see it. Taking away from the sisterly relationship, you know what? That happens as you get older. You get relationships that are out of the blue, whatever, or starting a new relationship, you're not as close as your siblings sometimes. And they'll get back to it, and I'm sure they will. But I think showing it the way they did was a really important. I don't care about the political stuff. It was really important for people to see that this is a perfectly normal thing. Also, it's a perfectly normal thing to not know from the moment you were born which gender you prefer. It's sometimes strikes you in the middle of your adulthood of saying, this is who I am. So I thought they did a great job with it. So I'm glad they'll continue with it. Maggie, who knows, she might not stick around, but it's been doing well, and they'll get back to the kick-ass soon, I hope.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you guys. This is why I brought it up, because I wanted to hear your guys' feelings. Because this, running these podcasts, even though we just do Arrow and Legends, we do get a lot of feedback about all the shows because they're interconnected and stuff. So there's a lot of opinions out there, a lot of feelings, and I'm on board with all of you guys. So I just want to make sure you guys know that I feel very strongly about these issues. That's why I brought them up, because I want to hear what you guys have to say. But this is the type of feedback that we get, and and when we look for news every week to find out if there's something to talk about, and these are the kind of things that are out there. It's great to hear you guys opening up about that, and I do agree with you that Supergirl has addressed Alex's relationship. They did it wonderfully. It's been a beautiful storyline, and I like Maggie. When we first saw her come on, she was pretty cool. I think the only part for me is that I do miss the action-packed Alex, and I would like to see both. That was my only stickler about that. So are we ready to move on to Flash? All right, guys. Let's get into Flash for a few minutes. I'm going to ask you guys right off the bat one big question here. Who is Savitar? Because there's been a lot of theories when we first saw him, and one of them was it's Wally West, but I think that got thrown off the table now. Another one, it was Future Barry, and it seems like it's no longer Future Barry. Could it be Henry Allen? These are the theories that we're getting to come in right now. Could it be Eddie Thawne? Or, based on Caitlin Snow, Killer Frost's reaction when he got out of his suit recently, could it be Ronnie Raymond? These are the theories coming at us right now. What do you guys think? Anyway, we got a lot of hands over here. Yeah, start in the front here.
Okay.
Hi.
Yes, based on the last episode and what we looked up on the internet. We think it's a Barry Allen from a different world.
Oh, from an alternate Earth.
Yeah, because of Killer Frost's reaction, it would be someone she knew.
Right.
And there are lots of Barry Allens out there. So
There is.
yeah.
Yeah, and since they opened that up to us that there's multiple Earths, it could be anybody for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a good theory. Barry Allen from Earth. I mean, what Earth would he be from? Would it be one of the ones that we saw already, or could it be a completely different one? I mean, he's left so many clues. The way he speaks sometimes when he says, "I am the future Flash." How I am the future, Flash, or I am the future Flash. It depends on how he's saying it, right? I know this is one of the things that the writers also took to heart, because this is not the Savitar from the comic books. He's quite a bit different. This suit. The thing that made me think it was Future Barry was because of the kind of metallic suit with the blue light going through it. If you guys read the New 52 comics of The Flash, that was what Future Barry looked like when he came back in time. His suit was now blue and black, and he had a lot of circuitry and stuff running through the suit, and he could communicate with the suit. So that immediately thought it's Future Barry, but I'm not so sure. Another question I want to ask you guys. Everything that's happening on Flash right now, do you think this is still effects from Flashpoint? Yes? Hands up? Let's see. All right, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Do we all think Barry will eventually go back and try to fix it all one more time? Yeah? What's that? Sir, you had something. You had your hand up earlier? No? Okay.
I know who Savitar is.
You know because you found out through the...
No, I have a fairly good deductive mind, and I tend to think.
As long as it's not a spoiler that you found out...
No, it's not a spoiler.
Okay.
Has anyone given the idea that it's maybe Flashpoint Barry?
Flashpoint Barry, explain.
Well, you went into Flashpoint, and when you go into Flashpoint, it wasn't like Barry didn't exist. So you run a mental timeline that a Barry existed in Flashpoint for these other characters to coincide with. Now you come back, and this guy shows up for how long was Barry actually in the Flashpoint universe for? What, 4 days, 5 days?
One episode.
Exactly. So at some point, this other Barry walks into the lab, starts talking to people and going, well, didn't you just leave? Yeah. And starts putting together the fact that there's another person around who's him, who has super speed, starts digging around to how he did it, and I don't know, maybe goes nuts. There's a connection as to why this character is able to access people who were changed in the Flashpoint timeline. It seems to be the people he's messing with are people who were already altered by the Flashpoint event. Wally, Caitlin, what's his nuts from the very first episode, the one played by Tom Felton, Dr. Alchemy. It's a theme. It's a theme. It's always something that has to do with bringing people back to the Flashpoint mentality. And if he's actually a god of speed, and we've already accounted for Wally, that really only leaves Barry as accessing the Flashpoint that way.
Yes. This is where it's such...
I mean, they could hook us and make it Iris.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, it could have just been a body double, but when that guy got out of the suit, it didn't look like Barry's legs to me, because Grant Gustin's a pretty skinny guy. And it looked like a much beefier person that got out of there, so that's where it's kind of thrown off. But yeah, it could have just been a body double. This is where it gets so confusing with things that Savitar said, because there was this theory: one will betray you, one will fall, one will suffer a fate worse than death. Have we seen all of those play out yet? Go ahead, sir. You got the mic?
I was just going to contribute my two theories. Originally, I had thought Abracadabra, because he's not so much a magician. He's a tech guy from the very far future. Okay. So we knew Savitar's suit was a suit. It was all it's all tech. So I was like, oh, Abracadabra. And then they brought him in for the episode, like a few episodes ago. I was like, oh, son of a gun. So I was still I'm still kind of maybe, but the other one is still HR. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, because it seems like he's the best bad guy. He was awesome as Reverse Flash. We know all those, other Harrison Wells out there, like in all the other unis, right? So who's to say it's just not another one of him, which I'm kind of hoping for. But
well, yeah, from what I read about the producers of the show, they had said that it's going to be someone that's going to shock us and someone that's going to be very emotional once we see the reveal. I mean, they could just be blowing wind up our, because they said a lot of things to mislead us. But the thing with Abracadabra, when they did show him, that people had thought that HR was Abracadabra, and then it was a different actor that showed up to play the part. This whole thing with Savitar. I'm hoping they're going to reveal it. I don't know if it's going to be the season finale that we get to see him on. Or they're going to, because what is there, 4 episodes to go? Well, yeah, we have 4 more. It's interesting. Yeah.
Next episode, I think.
What's that?
I think they said next episode we'll know.
Yeah, I can't remember what the title of the episode was. I think it's called I Know Who You Are. Right. So if we find out, then I guess maybe they find out, and then the last 4 episodes are stopping him, or something like that. Any other points about Savitar? I'll move on to other points.
No.
Oh, yeah, sure, buddy.
I was maybe thinking there's grounds for it being Henry, because if he was put into the Speed Force, into the prison that shows you your worst moments, maybe it drives him mad, and then he blames the Flash for putting him there. And then since he knows Barry, he knows how to get to him and his weaknesses, and the future, right? Because he's a speedster, so. Yeah.
That's a popular theory. That's Henry. I even thought that for a while too. Because where has Henry been recently? Are you thinking it's the Henry that we know, the one from?
Yeah, because he was put into the Speed Force prison in place of Wally.
Yes.
To take his place. So maybe what he's seen there made him turn into Savitar.
It's possible because you guys people were saying at the back there. What?
Yeah, and the good character, that character is Jay Garrett. Not Henry.
Oh, true. But the Henry that we know was killed by Reverse Flash, but the Jay Garrett that's stuck in it's the same character. Thing is, because Savitar said you put me in a place worse than hell, and I trapped him there. But he was the one that said, "I'll stay here. I'll take Wally's place." So maybe he just went mad over time, and now he's blaming, it's only because you screwed this all up, Barry, and got Wally trapped, and now I'm here, and I've sacrificed my life. And yeah, so that's still a very good possibility. Very true. I'm going to bring up another question. Do you guys, how are you liking, because she's here, Danielle Panabaker, how are you liking her performance of Killer Frost? Pretty awesome. Have we lost Caitlin to Killer Frost for this season, or is this something that Flashpoint's going to have to fix? Thoughts, theories, anybody? What do you think? Could get rid of her. Yeah. So it makes me wonder, like, this is why I brought up the thing about Flashpoint, if we think these are Flashpoint effects, because I don't think Caitlin is a character they're going to kill off. She's too main. It'd be like getting rid of Cisco, right? So I have my feeling is that this is Flashpoint universe, and we're gonna have this Killer Frost storyline until whenever they end it, and it won't be until Barry goes back and fixes it that we'll get Caitlin back. It's kind of what I feel. How about Savitar's warning that someone's gonna die? What are the theories out there? Anybody? Guesses? Who do you think we're going to lose this show? The reigning theory that we hear is probably Julian, because he seems like the biggest character to write off, or the easiest one to write off. He's the red shirt, as they say.
Joe West.
Joe West? You think they'll get rid of Joe?
Probably HR.
HR seems expendable as well, yeah. Can you imagine the emotional impact if they got rid of Joe, though?
You seem to be pumping out HR when kids like to come from 7-Elevens.
And that, yeah, and that makes him very expendable, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, when we saw Caitlin hiding that piece of the fragment in that cabinet, I kind of deduced that as being the one that betrays them. What's that? 10 minutes to go?
3.
It goes to 3:30, I think.
Sure.
Pretty sure. You guys have 3:30 for this panel?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got till 3:30. Okay, thanks so. Let's see, what else do I got on here? Oh, since we're talking about Harrison Wells, which Wells do we like the best? Do we like season 1 Wells that turned into Reverse Flash? Do we like season 2 Earth 2 version? Or do we like the current HR Harry? All right, so season 1, majority. Season 2, Earth 2. How about right now, HR? Oh, it looks like season 1 Harry kind of had the most hands up there. The reason, and that's the one I would have picked, the reason I like season 1 Wells is because even though he turned, like we got to witness the transition into Eobard, the reverse, and I just thought Tom Cavanaugh was absolutely fantastic in that performance. But we saw him really, I think more so than any other ones, he really actually seemed to care about Barry. And even though it was to his own means, to his own end, I just found that there was just chemistry between the two of them that we didn't quite see with the other two. But it was interesting to see where you guys went with that. So a little bit of news that I heard, they finally announced that there's going to be no Speedster as the main villain for season 4. Are we happy about that? Are we tired of Speedster villains? Yeah? Because we've had 3, right? Every season's about 1. And it seems like it's going to be someone that he knows, someone that's betrayed him, just like what happened in season 1 and season 2. But what do you guys think? Who should be the villain for season 4? Are we thinking the Rogues? Should we get Captain Cold back on Flash? Yeah? Well, it's, again, time travel, timey-wimey, all this stuff, right? Flashpoint, how many times? Because you remember when Barry originally went back to Flashpoint, we were on an alternate timeline right now. So if he goes back and is able to fix it and get back on the original timeline, then we'll still have Captain Cold. I think. Yeah, hopefully, exactly. Or there's a lot of fans that are hoping for Gorilla Grodd. But that'd be an expensive season, wouldn't it? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Anybody want to bring up anything else about Flash? One more point? Yeah, did we like the musical episode? I absolutely loved it too. I thought the singing, the dancing, it was so much fun. know who surprised me the most was seeing Wynn from Supergirl. Wow! That guy had a voice. Apparently he did Broadway and stuff before, so I had no idea. That was small. So I'm glad everybody liked it. You had a question there?
Yeah. I know it ties back into a previous conversation, but with The Flash, I really miss Patty Spivot. I think the New 52 romance. In the New 52, like I love Patty more than I love Iris, and it was so short, and I really liked it, and how short it was in the show, I was a little disappointed.
I'm so with you, bud. It was, what's the actress's name that played her? Chantal. Sorry? Yeah, that's it. Chantal Van Zanten. It was her performance. She basically was Patty Spivot right off the pages. Absolutely amazing. I loved her from the first moment she came on screen. And they had chemistry. I don't understand why the writers wrote her off, because it was way more chemistry, way more connection than he's had with Iris. I mean, I like Iris, but it was such an overpowering difference between the two of them. So I hope they bring her back. I know Chantal, she's on that other TV show Shooter right now, so I don't know if she's busy. Yeah, she's like one of the main actresses on that show. Yeah, I'm glad you brought her up, because I loved her. Every scene they were in, she matched him, quirk for quirk. It was awesome. Over here, sir.
Should I wait for the mic? I'm a teacher.
Oh, you can project, sure. It's just that the mic I've got going to the board, so I'll...
So it might be the wrong room to bring this up, but I was just thinking about how you were saying with Gorilla Grodd being a villain, how expensive it would be. And it's one of those things where, if you're watching I assume a lot of people are watching all 4 DC TV shows, sometimes with The Flash, don't throw anything. And Arrow, some seasons too, I feel like they're drawing it out for the number of episodes they've contracted to do. Has there ever been any talk about upping the value, like doing more special effects and shortening the episode commitments for any of these DC TV shows?
That's a good question. I wish I had information for you on that. I believe with the success of the shows that they are throwing more money at them. Flash is clearly the leader. Flash always has, week after week, the highest viewer rating. I think Legends challenged it this season, but Flash is their number one show out of the DC shows. And as far from what I've read, they get a little bit more money as it's a success. It does pump out more. And I think you've noticed this season the special effects kind of getting up there. I mean, that Gorilla Grodd 2-part episode, there was a lot in there. I know some of the effects looked a little bit hokey, and you can tell where it was a little bit weak, but pretty effects heavy. So I have no idea what it costs to do that. But I think as long as the show is still successful, they'll still throw money at it and continue to improve it and find ways to do that kind of stuff. Yeah. Sorry, I don't have exact details for you.
Is that the reason why DC's Legends of Tomorrow isn't as many episodes as the other shows? Is because it's more special effects driven?
Well, that one, Legends of Tomorrow, that was an experiment. They didn't know if it was going to work. That's why the first season was, what was it, 12 episodes or something? The first.
Well, season 2 was only like 17 episodes.
Yeah, 17 episodes. So I think the first season was kind of an experiment. They didn't know if it was going to work. And season 2 was actually only contracted to do also another 12 episodes or whatever, but then it was doing so well and so successful partway through the season, they extended the order. They said, no, let's get 5 more episodes or whatever, and that's why they were able to extend it. I think, I haven't read anything yet, I haven't heard anything yet if they're going to extend it to get a full 22 episode thing, but originally Legends was supposed to be like a time filler. While the other shows are off the air, it was supposed to fill the gap, and that's why it was a shorter season. Sorry? Yeah, like Peggy Carter kind of thing. So, Agent Carter. So as successful as Legends was this season, I'm going to wait to find out. As soon as I hear the news, I'll put it up on my podcast for sure that Legends gets a full 22 episodes like Arrow and Flash, but that would be fantastic. Time has kind of run away from us. Is there Gotham fans in the audience? A couple? Okay, we can spend a minute or two on Gotham. A couple of points I just wanted to make about Gotham is that it's not a CW show. Now, the thing with Gotham is I find it's so dark and violent compared to all the other DC TV shows. It surprises me how violent it can get. a couple of those sequences with that 3-story Joker arc was crazy. And there's some fantastic things going on in that show. The first season I liked half of it, didn't like half of it, and the second season was alright. I think I'm curious about people's reaction. It's what ruined it for me was Fish Mooney. Anybody? One of the worst villains ever, I think, created. I don't know if it's the actress's performance, but she just was annoying every time she's on screen.
As a character brought in for the worst reasons whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was bought as a bribe when they were willing to put on the Deadshot costume.
Oh yeah, is that it?
I mean, come on. Does anybody else disagree with that one? Is there anybody in this room that can look me in the eye and tell me that Jada Pinkett Smith was such a wonderful choice for a poor kissy named character named Fish Mooney, that the only reason that she was there was on her merits and talents as an actress?
That's, yeah.
Anybody here?
See what I mean? That's a touchy subject.
It was the bribe Billy into the Deadshot costume. Look, you've employed your life into this major role. Now that you're part of the family, can we ask a favor?
Okay, that's fair. It's a fair assessment. So are we gonna get Penguin back? They can't write him off the show, right?
He was in the last episode, alive.
Was it? I thought that was just in Riddler's mind.
At the very end.
Spoilers.
Okay, I'm forgetting.
Poison Ivy took him out of it.
You're right. I forgot about. Okay, well, forget that question then. How about the Riddler? Riddler's getting pretty nasty. He's turned it out because Riddler has never been this dark of a villain. Like, he just likes to toy with people and see if Batman can solve his clues and stuff. So I'm surprised, like I said, the dark path that this show takes. How about that three? Let's go back to that Joker episode. How about the kid, Cameron Monaghan? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Monaghan. Do we think he's the best Joker we've ever seen? Like, is he up there with Heath Ledger's portrayal? Yeah, I mean, I think from the first few moments we saw of him, he's got the laugh. When he does this, that's creepy. Like, really, really creepy. I'm really, really enjoying him. I'm gonna have just a quick little vote. What villain are we enjoying the most on the show? Penguin, Riddler, Joker, Barbara, or Gallivant? Let's do a little hand for Penguin. Couple, yeah. Riddler. Kind of even. The Joker. Yeah, he's jumping up there. How about Barbara, the crazy girl? Nobody. Gallivant. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of it too. Cool. So it looked like Joker and Riddler were kind of up there. Last thing I'm going to touch on with Gotham before we move on here. Is everybody enjoying the relationship between Bruce and Alfred as much as I am? There is something, that kid actor is, what's his name here? It looks like David Mazouz, but I actually saw him in an interview. He likes his name pronounced David. So it's David Mazouz. That little kid, I swear, we're watching him grow up on Gotham, and we're watching him grow under Bruce. I don't know where this kid gets his performance and his acting chops from. It's amazing. I would love for him to stick around long enough that we see him mature into like a 22-year-old actor and he gets to play Batman. How cool would that be? Because he is fitting the role. But just the chemistry between him and Sean Pertwee, who plays Alfred, he's one of the best Alfreds we've ever had. Oh man, this guy is that. There is something special about the bond between the two of them. And I remember reading in an interview, the two of them hang out offset. They're like best friends, which is so cool. I mean, there's like 40 years difference between their age, and yet they're like best buddies. They go out to movies and they chum around and just have a grand old time. And that's what you see on screen. You see the performance and the chemistry between the two of them. It's just amazing. Any other Gotham comments before I move on? Okay, we're gonna get. I gotta see if I can call out my host here. See if she is ready. Hopefully.
I just don't think it's going to take very long for Alfred to figure out that there's an imposter in there.
Sorry, say that again?
Because of the connection, I don't think it's going to take very long for Alfred to figure out that kid's an imposter right now.
I don't think so either. Yeah. Well, I'm interested in where they're going to go with that story, with that and the Court of Owls. Like, it's probably going to be a few episodes that he's going to take over for a little while. Yeah. Good part on the kid again, because he's playing dual roles. He's playing a darker, sinister version of himself. So that's really, really good. Are you there, Harley?
I am here.
Are we doing audio or video?
I am not sure. I can see people. Can you see?
We don't see you, no.
Okay, hang on.
All right.
Let me see if I can.
There she
there we
is.
go. Is that better?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey everybody, this is my co-host Harley. She is in Atlanta as well.
Hi.
All right, Harley, we just went through all our TV shows. We saved Legends of Tomorrow for last. So I'm going to kick it off just like our regular show. I'll hit off our music and then we'll get into it.
All right.
All right, guys. So we've got some intro music because Legends of Tomorrow, our podcast is called Tomorrow's Legends, and it's Flash and Harley, so I'll play that for you, and this is what it sounds like on the show.
In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this wonder twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as Tomorrow's Legends. And now, here are your hosts, the fleet-footed Flash and his hammer-swinging partner, Harely Quinn.
It sounds better on the podcast live. I don't know what's going on with the audio here. All right, so welcome. What's that?
Sounded great to me.
Oh, sounded good to you? Yeah, it was coming out weird in the speakers here. Welcome to Tomorrow's Legends, guys. This was our first podcast that we ever started. I met my friend Harley. Her real name is Jess, but her stage name is Harely Quinn, and I'm the Flash, so we have a little bit of a hero-villain rivalry going on all the time for fun on the show. We actually met when I went down to Dragon Con in Atlanta, and we were both fans. Arrow Squad was actually hosted by some other people for a couple seasons, and they had a big feedback fan get-together in Dragon Con, so I flew down there for that, and that was where I met Jess, and we spent the entire weekend together, and we got asked to be guest hosts on Arrow Squad live right there, just like we're doing here. This is where the idea came from. We got asked to be guests on a live version of the show for Arrow Squad, and there came a moment in the podcast when the hosts wanted to look something up online, so they said, Martin and Jess, take over the show, just talk about something. And we ended up taking over the show for 20 minutes. And we got lost in our own little world, just discussing Arrow, and we looked over at the two hosts, and they're both just sitting there like this, like proud parents looking at their children. And it was from that point on that once I flew home, we got in touch, and we decided that we wanted to do our own show. And we had heard that Legends of Tomorrow was coming, and there wasn't a podcast for it yet. So we thought, let's tackle that one, because there's already an Arrow one, there's already a Flash one out there. And that's where we did. So we've been doing it from the beginning. And before I forget to mention, guys, when we're done here, and you guys are all leaving, I've got these sheets, and you guys can come up and get one, and I'll say hi to you. But it basically has all the information of our two podcasts, so you guys can find that, and then we'd love for you guys to, subscribe and listen to our show from week to week. I know Legends is off the air right now, but we got a few more episodes of Arrow Squad to go, and then we'll be back for season 3. But if you guys haven't heard it yet, you can listen to all the back issues if you want. That'd be great. All right, you ready, Harley? We'll get into this. We got about 25 minutes.
Sounds good.
So, the first thing we're going to get into about Legends is how much better this season was compared to season 1. Are we in agreement to that? Yeah. So what made this season 2 so much better? Number 1, it was the writing. Season 1 was a little bit herky-jerky. Not a lot of fans liked Vandal Savage. He wasn't the best villain. But I think season 2 was the writing. They realized that they're the fun show out of the bunch, and they can make fun of themselves, laugh at themselves, and just enjoy what's going on. This is a time travel show. It is almost impossible to follow all the rules, whatever time travel rules there are. We don't actually have any. So they just realized, let's just sit back and have fun and not worry about the serious stuff too much. traveling to different time periods, because season 1 we didn't get to see too many, but season 2 we got to finally go to some really, really cool periods and get to see them dress up. I mean, who doesn't laugh every time Mick Rory has to wear some crazy outfit? Right? The one-liners, like the dialogue between all the characters, the great cast, like the chemistry. I think I'll let you jump in here in a sec, Harley. Like when this show is proving that you can have a team, a cast of characters that work together as a team, and you find the right balance, the right chemistry between them all, and it works. Other shows struggle with that a little bit, but this cast seems to work so well. They got rid of the ones that weren't working, like Hawk Girl and Hawk Man, not working so well season 1, so whoosh, up they went. They brought in Amaya, and she's fitting in okay. They brought in Nick, and who doesn't love Nick here? Do we all like Nick? Yeah. Harley, what do you think? What do you got to say about season 2?
I thought it was great. Like I said, and I apologize, my voice is a little off. I'm kind of coming off of a cold, but I loved what they did with the new cast. And I thought that the new additions were great, and then the fact that they're just making fun of themselves for season 1, and then kind of how they turned it around, and it's by far the most improved show, I think, of the DC shows. They tried to take themselves almost seriously, but not quite. So it was a little bit more tongue-in-cheek, but not as cheesy. So I love that they did that.
How about anybody out there? Thoughts down there? Where's the microphone? Fella right beside you there. Tell us what you think, sir.
Yeah, I really like this season. It's my favorite of all the 5 of them. I like the dynamics between a lot of different characters. It's funny. Like Rory and Haircut. Those guys are funny. Yeah, a lot of funny stuff. It reminds me of the old JLI comic, if you know, the Bwahaha thing. Okay. Where they laugh at each other, a lot of joking, but at the same time, there's some good threats there. But yeah, good dynamics between all the different characters.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard. You can't really say enough about how. I think Legends won. There was some little contest out there, and they said it won the fake award of most improved show out of all the DC shows, and it totally was. Anybody else thoughts about the new season? Just general thoughts?
I'm sad that we don't see McRory's rat. He got a rat for Christmas, and we've never seen it ever again. I'm so sad.
Diesel the rat. Well, he was in the one episode when they all were.
Is in Doom World.
Yeah, Doom World. Do you remember seeing the rat in Doom World? It was when they were all basically reprogrammed to be darker versions of themselves by Damien Dark there, and when they were all starting getting their minds back, it was back. Was it in the sorry? Yes, that's what I was trying. Yeah, Ray. It was Ray, right, Harley? Ray had Diesel the rat. Because remember they were arguing over the name. He saw the rat, and I think Mick said, "Oh, Diesel," and Ray said, "No, it's not Diesel. It's what were the 3 names? They had 3 names for the rat."
Off the top of my head, I can't remember.
Yeah. They were arguing between him, Nick, and Ray. They were arguing over what the names of the rat was.
Yeah, they call him Tesla. Was it Tesla at one point?
I think so. Or the 3 Stooges, I think. Yeah, I can't remember, but it was fun. So the rat made a second appearance, but I'd say it's moments like that make this show wonderful, because it shows you that Rory just has this softer side that you don't expect. Like the fact that he cares about a rat is pretty funny.
I love that it's his pet.
Yeah. Sarah Lance. Let's talk about Sarah for a moment. Has she come into her own as a leader and captain? Like she's the best captain we've ever had, right? Far better than Rip. We'll talk about Rip in a minute, but Sarah Lance, I think she has had, between her and Mick, I think Sarah has had probably one of the strongest story arcs of the season. It's not even just Legends, because we've seen her, she got introduced on Arrow, and we saw her go through that story of, being Black Canary, coming back as the assassin from the League of Assassins, and we had to complete that story with what happened between her and Oliver and her sister, the love triangle, and then she dies, and then they bring her back to life, and she doesn't know who she is, and she decides to go off on the Wave Rider with the Legends, and she's struggling, with who she is, and then she has to take over as captain. And suddenly she blossoms, and man, what a phenomenal! It's almost like her character went through this change, and so did her acting. Because I don't know where Katie Lotz just started performing like you wouldn't believe, and I fell in love with her at that moment because I was never a huge fan of her on Arrow. Just amazing. She's a great leader. Harley?
Yeah, I agree. I really didn't mind her on Arrow, but I definitely think her character has improved a lot on Legends of Tomorrow. I like what the writers are doing with her, especially now that she's taken over as captain. I think the role really suits her, and I'm excited to see more of that, to see her kind of be solidified as the captain for the next season, and then they can, we'll see how they reintroduce Rip, but I'm excited to see what else Sarah has to offer.
Yeah, anybody out there? We got some Sarah fans out there. Want to say something about her? Oh, there's lots. All right. Rick, sure. You had something. Sorry, sir, we missed you. What do you want to say at the beginning there?
I just want to say that I thought the villains were really good this season. I really like the dynamic between the Legion of Doom. Right. The only thing is that I find this show sometimes makes some pretty big leaps in kind of logic, which is the fun part of it as well. But for example, one of the last episodes when Eobard Thawne is fighting the Legends, he just kind of knocks them out, rather than, just ripping out their hearts like he did in the earlier episode. So I'm just wondering, is Eobard Thawne just kind of stupid, or is he just arrogant at that point?
I think a little arrogance comes into play there. Yeah, I'll just second that motion that the villains have been phenomenal this season for sure. The Legion of Doom, the three of them, so much fun. I mean, we got three great actors that are playing the parts, and it's just fun to see them. We'll get to Eobard in a little bit.
Yeah, so Sarah Lance, I think it was amazing how she stepped up to become captain, and I think she really was the only option they had out of the group they have right now. Right. And it was interesting when they brought Rip back after, he got his memories back and realized who he was again, how there was such a conflict between who to follow and who to listen to. Mm-hmm. But they always followed Sarah, whereas they kind of always gave Rip the kind of you're not really in charge anymore look. So I'm glad she's the captain now. She does a much better job than Rip ever did.
I think we all agree to that, right?
Yeah.
That's a good point you brought up, because Rip, they really always argued his commands and did their own thing or whatever, but Sarah, they give respect to.
Thank you.
And when she says something, they do it. Hi.
Hi. I like Sarah as the female lead here because she's a strong, confident leader, and she doesn't have to be mean. She doesn't have to be a bully. She's confident, and I like to see a female character like that, and she's earning the respect of the other members of the team, not demanding it. She's earning it. So I like to see a female character in that role. What else was I going to say? Also, I really enjoyed Malcolm Merlin this year because I missed him so much as a character, and he just adds that comic relief. And then after seeing him here last year at the con, it just makes watching him even more fun. So, yeah.
Totally, Harley. I know you want to respond to that, Sarah being a female leader, female captain.
Yes, that was an excellent point. I love the fact that absolutely she's a strong, confident leader, and she has kind of earned their respect and not demanded it. And I think that was definitely the problem with Rip. I mean, he was all out for himself. He wasn't looking out for the team. It's very clear that she's a team leader and a team player, and that she puts the team first. She doesn't put herself first. And so I like that aspect a lot.
So I'll just add, as a mother, I totally identify with that situation between her and Rip because my husband works out of town a lot, so I'm the boss when he's not around. But when he comes home, he wants to be the boss. So that struggle right there, I totally get it. So when my husband comes home from work and he's telling the kids what to do and they're looking at me for permission. So when he came back onto the show and we were watching, I was laughing and my husband asked me why. I'm like, I totally get that here, right? Because from him working out of town for so long and now he's home a lot, bless him. But it's kind of hard for him to find his place within our family because he had his place and now it's like, where do I go? So I think Rip, is in the same way. So maybe a lot of Albertans can be like, yeah, I totally get that storyline. And considering is this not shot in BC? Parts of the show? Yeah. Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, maybe there's a lot of people going, yeah, I totally get that. Anyways.
Someone in front here wanted to say something about Sarah? I saw a lot of hands go up. More Sarah people out there? No? Okay. Did you have something?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we really liked Sarah, but also we enjoy at the very beginning of the show, they changed the actors who say the intro about who they are, and so we always laugh, and then when it gets to Mick Rory, and then he's just like, yeah, whatever. And so that's always funny to watch that.
Racist crap anyway.
Yeah.
That actually, if you guys tune into our podcast or listen, we actually have something called Quote of the Week, which is it's the fan favorite section, and what we do is me and Harley, she picks 4 funny quotes from each episode, and I pick 4 serious scenes. And then I take the clips and actually play them on the show. And then if you go to our Facebook page, or fan page for the podcast, you can vote. She'll put up a poll, and you can vote on the quotes of the week. And right now we're in the process of doing the quote of the season. And that very one from Mick, when he did the opening sequence, that had more votes than any other quote in the entire season. So yeah, really, really funny stuff. But speaking of Mick, let's talk about Mick Rory and his growth into becoming a good guy. Got something you want to add there, sir?
Well, I was waiting for the Mick Rory conversation to get to.
Cool. All right.
First, I'll start by saying I absolutely love the dynamic between Dominic Purcell and Wentworth Miller. I've loved them since Prison Break, and this is just an extension on that. They just work so bloody well together that it's just absolutely it's a joy to watch. Mick, though, is a good. I like Mick's growth as a character. He is your atypical bad boy made at least sort of kind of good. He doesn't really see exactly what he's doing is wrong, but he's willing to go along with what the normal consensus says that he shouldn't have to be doing. But yeah, it's been an amazing ride for Mick. He's actually been the one that every series has a touchstone character. I'd have to say Mick is the one that I've been kind of gravitating toward as the okay, this is time travel in a weird ship, but everybody else is here, so what the hell? And the average viewer can actually identify that. It's like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know the first bloody thing about paradoxes, but hey, this is where you're telling me to fire my gun, and I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, exactly. With Mick, I think in season 1, everybody loved Snart so much that because of the chemistry, watching the 2 actors together was priceless. But I think it's because Snart is gone that it really allowed Mick to shine and allowed Dominic Purcell to really shine in the role. Because, we watched the transition of him no longer wanting to just have his partner. He wanted to protect his team and help his team. Even though he doesn't show it all the time, he does in his actions. And he's become my favorite character. I love his quips and his one-liners. And sometimes he just takes the bull by the horns and says, "We're doing it my way," and he leads the team in the situations that he's good as a leader.
Yeah, I see this with Mick. I see this with Sarah, the Sarah character as well. That it speaks a certain amount why I think the second season is better than the first season. It's a huge ensemble cast. You have some really talented actors in there, and they get almost no time on screen in the first season. And I think I can start now to understand who the characters are now that they've had enough time to develop through to in the second season. So I think that's why I like the second season so much more. And it's Sarah and Nick are two really important parts in that equation, I think.
Yeah, I think everybody agrees with that. Like they trimmed it down a little bit, and it allowed character growth, character storylines to thicken up. I mean, there's talk that they're going to add another character or two next season. Not sure who that is yet. Does that mean we're going to lose somebody from this cast that we have right now? I'm not sure. I think Amaya is probably expendable. I think eventually she's going to have to go back to her timeline and let her story play out. Because remember, right now, this one that we have, she's the grandmother of the current Vixen in the Arrow timeline, right? So I think we will lose her eventually. You got something back there?
Yeah. I think season 2 is so great is because we actually enjoyed the villains in this season. I know there was quite a few episodes where it was mostly just the 3 villains in the entire episode, and I like seeing the dynamic between the 3 of them. They didn't always get along, and when they did, they were making fun of each other, and they didn't try to do too much with them. We already knew who they were, so we didn't have to get much backstory, so they were able to play around with them, I think, a lot, and I really enjoyed them, and I think that's because of that made season 2 so good.
What's happening to 3 villains and the actors playing the parts, yeah, exactly. Harley, do you want to say anything, or we can let you be quiet for a little bit?
I know I've been quiet. I'm just enjoying the commentary, but you know that I love the villains. That they're usually my favorite part of any show, especially those 3. They're some of my 3 favorite villains of all time. So.
Yeah. I want to throw some out here because there's a character that's hidden behind the scenes quite often, and she's actually one of my favorites. How much love for Gideon is there here? Yes. How awesome was it to see her come to life when we were inside Rip's head? Wasn't that amazing? A little creepy. What I liked about it so much because in our show, all season long, it was funny that it happened because I kept saying to Harley here, I was like, they need to do what the TV show Andromeda did and bring the ship's computer, either give her an android body that they can download her programming into, or make it a holographic image that wanders around the ship. Because I believe Andromeda did both versions of that. I would love to see them do that with Gideon so that we can have her part of the cast because she's so integral to the show, and I love one of the theories that we bring up is how sentient is Gideon, because she seems to have emotions, she seems to care, she seems to get upset, she seems to get, like what was that one scene when Ray and Stein's daughter were going to test that device on her, and she's like, wait a second, this ship has a name. Like she's pretty snarky. So, and then also like the feelings between her and Rip, like there is a connection there. And one of our listeners called in some feedback, and they think that there might be a chip or something implanted inside Rip that allows him to be connected to the Wave Rider at all times, no matter where he is. And that could explain why she was able to be in his head during that time when his brain was rewritten, because she said she was there the whole time and she knew everything that was going on. So if that is true, that would really make it an intimate bond between the 2 of them. Because we saw there might have been a romantic spark, right? And I don't know whether people are shipping that or not. I mean,
I don't know how that would work, but I love Gideon.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some Gideon love. I just think if we could see more of her, it would be great to have her part of the show. I think we're getting close, but about ready to wrap it up. 2 minutes. Any last couple comments, guys? Well,
the George Lucas episode.
Yeah, did you like that?
I liked that.
Yeah.
Just the fact that one show or one movie can mean so much to like completely change who you turn out to be.
Isn't that funny?
I think it's cool. And it was really well done.
Yeah, there was a couple of great lines in that. I think one of them was one of our quotes of the week for that as well. Yeah, I don't. Sorry, Harry?
I was just laughing.
Okay. Yeah, no, there's definitely some fun stuff. Do we like Rip? That's the last question I'm going to ask. Do you like Rip? Are we sad to see him go, or are we?
I still think of him as Rory from Doctor Who.
It was hard to take him seriously in the beginning, because he was so goofy on Doctor Who. Yeah, they already announced that he's coming back, which I thought was strange. That we said goodbye to him. It was a very touching. I thought it was a great send off. All right, Rip, go. But Harley, we'll let you finish off here. You have one theory as to why he has to come back. Why the team needs him.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a time master, and he kind of knows the ins and outs of time travel. I mean, we need kind of someone that has that expertise. I mean, I know that Jax has kind of learned the ins and outs of the Wave Rider of the actual ship, but even, that connection with Gideon as well, I don't think we've seen the last of Rip, and I don't even know if they're going to bring him back kind of like as a member of the team, but I think maybe that he's just going to be like someone they can go to for help and guidance. So I think that would be an interesting dynamic if they did that.
Yeah, I think he's got knowledge as a time master that, as good as the team is, I think they need that. He's got the experience. He's traveled through time like crazy. All right, guys, I'm getting the signal that we got to wrap this up. So I just want to thank everybody for coming out. I was really nervous about this. It was my first show. It's easier to hide at home behind a mic and nobody sees me. I don't even let my co-hosts see me. We just do audio usually. I really, really appreciate you guys coming out. I would love for you to come get a sheet and get some information. Just join our Facebook pages or sign up for the podcast and listen to us every week. That would be fantastic. But thank you so much for coming out. I am Martin the Flash. Harley.
And this is Harely Quinn.
And we usually say we're signing off.
Find our podcast in iTunes. You can leave us a rating and review. We'd love that. As well, we can now be found in Google Play Music. Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network.